not done.
The council, we want to get it done ourselves and just hire and,
I mean, I guess, I know you don't want to, I understand the situation. What would you recommend so we can get this done?
Okay, before we move on to that one,
okay?
just if you'll just add behind your first sentence, your water meter will be removed and service disconnected if payment is not paid in full or arrangements made. So he has the ability to come talk to the council.
More arrangements made. You got that, Lynn?
No, but Eric's gonna get me a copy.
Yep, right now.
And that sounds consistent. We've always tried to work with folks if they, want to come and talk to us, and there's a real need to be able to work with them, for sure. I like that word.
Hold on, it's almost filed.
Almost mailed.
Okay. That change in name, you want to just make a motion to have this letter be appropriate when it's appropriate? Have Kim send it out, or?
Well, I think when we add these, I think we need to handle them on an individual basis.
The council, for the council each time?
Yeah, I think so. If we have an issue we're getting to this point.
Is that going to be a closed session then each time on that?
It could be a closed session. If they want to come talk to the council, we can certainly entertain that in a closed session. So we better advertise that, Lynn, in our next meeting, possible closed session. That's probably why the county puts it on every agenda.
So then at this point, what do you want to do with the way the wording you just added then? As far as,
That's it, send it.
okay, so do you take a motion to approve this as written?
I don't even think we need a motion. It's already in our,
Code and thing?
yep.
Great. Go for it. With the,
I think he's asking for permission to send it.
I think you got it.
Well, I just created the draft. Lynn's really gonna finish the letter and certify it and send it.
Okay.
And Mayor, you get to sign it.
There you go.
Now, we
They'll let
could
me
have the general water manager department sign it. Also, we did that with the other letter.
And that would be fine too for both of us, just so the folks who get it see that it's not just one person, but I mean,
Right.
it's been discussed, hopefully they understand.
Is there a contact on that? Let's get a phone number he can contact us on.
For the letter?
Yeah,
Yeah, that probably is a good idea.
Use the phone number that's on the billings. If it goes to Kathy Joe, she can refer them to either Gary or myself.
So you use her number?
Yes,
Okay.
that's been standard practice, and then she decides where to send that issue to, if that's okay with the council.
yeah.
Okay, now on to keep talking about that one guy for hydrant.
Okay, now we're back to that guy. Okay, we have a contractor, have we had any,
I don't, to my knowledge, he hasn't gotten back to us yet.
hasn't gone back to us yet, which means he hasn't pulled an excavation permit with the town.
That would be correct.
Okay,
I've tried calling him several times, I emailed him and
So no, he has not gotten back to us.
Is this the guy with Best Construction?
yeah,
His name is Jim something?
that's what
yeah,
I've
Jim
heard.
Best.
Yeah, he and I have been in contact, and I've been trying to get him to give me some numbers to dig that water line up on Little Sweden, 1031 East. Are you thinking that you could have him dig the other one up on the hill also?
He's been hired and called, well, I shouldn't say he's been hired, he called in a Blue State to dig in the road, to hook in a water meter for the irrigation company. But my thoughts were, at the same time he's doing that, why aren't we running the culinary?
Okay, and I called him up and also the general contractor on that job and told them to make their customer, the homeowner, aware that if they're gonna go out in the road and dig, they really should think about culinary. And from the email I got from you, Eric, they were gonna dig in the road for irrigation.
Correct,
And there is an irrigation line there, it's only about 2.5 feet away from the water line,
right,
the culinary water.
correct.
So that was a good move to have that happen, but what they found out from the owners is they already have irrigation water on a valve that's behind the house. And so they're not going into the road to dig for any irrigation, but they are gonna be digging in the road for culinary. So that's how that's settled down. That's all right with us, isn't it? If his price to do that, his cost to do that, and what he quotes us.
Are you
is,
making a bond when they go into the road?
Yeah, they have to come in and get a permit, we make them pull an excavation permit, but,
But a bond.
A bond.
A bond.
yeah, they're bonded,
To guarantee the road.
yeah, right.
Part of the excavation permit requires bond.
And so, but that was that's why I threw that out there, because I got the blue stake that said he was digging for irrigation, and that's what I thought, well, culinaries, you know,
Some way the
Feet away.
message got mixed up between the homeowner and the contractor on irrigation. But they do need to get out in the road for the culinary.
okay.
And
So they're installing the meter in the back?
it's already, I think that the valve, I don't know if the meter's there, I know that the valve is there. They have got access to Daniel Irrigation right now.
Yeah. But I know there's new requirements irrigation's putting on that require them to meter anything that's not agricultural, so. And that's why I thought that this came about.
Yeah, but they could meter it off the valve in the back.
Right, well, if they let them.
Yeah.
They all, Daniel Irrigation owns all the lines, so they'll tell you where you can get it off of.
Okay, there's a new issue. Yeah, I don't know.
I want to get back to the one that we've been going on all summer. What's it gonna take to get that done before winter? Do we need to just on contract,
Well, that's what I was thinking, we could have him go and do that, but it sounds like he's not too responsive, but, well, to our engineering, he obviously talks to you.
He did.
I think he got, I'm guessing he got phone calls from 2 Kims and called one back and thought he returned all the calls.
Could be.
You've got to start using Kimberly. I can't use Kimberly.
At least at your age now.
The camera's on, you can if you want.
Well, I won't.
You'll be surprised by how common this is an issue.
So.
Why don't, my suggestion is,
Is the dates just falling through, or are we just not connecting? or-
Well, no, I'll tell you, I've had 4 phone calls and it was gonna get done within the next 2 days on every phone call.
That's what I'm asking, if they're bigger.
you know, if it's just a little Kubota hoe on the back of a little Kubota, you're only digging down 4 feet. For heaven's sakes, all you do is pull the tap out of the T and then put a stainless steel plug in it. It's just not.
Should I try one more phone call and just be really?
Yeah, that's my suggestion. And then meanwhile, I'll check with Jim at Best Construction and see his status to getting out in the Little Sweden Road. And if he's very responsive to that and that fits together, then I'll take him up. And if the problem has not been solved, Mayor, by then, I'll show him where he could dig possibly. See what he could do for us. How's that?
Perfect. Any other questions on Stormhaven? If not, we're moving on to number 8, Planning Department Report, Violations and Enforcement. And we'll turn the time over to Eric on.
Just quickly, before you leave water,
Yes, sir.
I attended some trainings this past while, and I was looking at, they required a new site plan for our treatment. And I just wanted to check with you, did that get turned in?
Site plan for the tree?
Yeah, for our five different,
Yes,
it's turned into the state?
yes.
Good, because we're past the deadline, perfect.
Last item, Ryan, did you ever find the 10 Commandments for the septic tanks?
No, I didn't, but Lynn took care of that for me.
Okay, so we have got that going out to the people in Stormhaven?
We have something going out to everybody, nothing to me, but Lynn got it done.
Thank you.
See what you think of that.
So is that a notice going out to the septic? Is that for the rate increase?
No.
That was just the do's and don'ts on how to handle a septic system and things to not put in it if you want it to last longer.
Okay.
There have been 2 individuals up there that have requested that information 2 times. accountant.
Yeah, I think one went out, didn't it? We sent this out once before, is that right, Ryan?
I
No,
don't believe so. I think we said we would get something together, and then at the next meeting, they asked for it again. But this is the response to those requests.
Okay. Will we put a link to this on our website?
We can do.
Okay. I think that'd be good. Don't tell Lisa we did that.
Well,
She won't find it.
She might.
You mentioned a notice on the rate increase, and I was talking to Kathy Jo about that today. How do you want just, the bills that are going out this week for September do not have the increase on there because it was passed mid-September.
Okay.
So the bills for October's water use that go out the 1st of November will have the rate increase in effect. Do you just want a simple blurb on the bill itself that there have been new rates instituted, or how do you?
There's certain folks that didn't show up to that meeting, and so I bet most, but not all of here, I see that being a
Well,
positive.
it's for sewer and water, so everybody in Storm Haven is going to get
I think it's a great idea, just to
just
raise
put
that
something
amount.
on the bill. And then do you want this separate notice
Separate
put
with,
in the bill
put in the
as
bill.
well?
That would be my line of thinking. Okay.
I like what you do.
Do you want anything in regards to the hardship consideration for those that have a hard time with the posted anywhere, or just,
You know, I'd probably just say, you know, that would be a water issue, and that would be a delinquent issue with the water, and so it needs to come before us. Kim, how do you feel about that, with regards to that? Let it, wait until it, I mean, you can send it out, you can send it out now and let everybody know, or just wait for the few that it's gonna apply to,
well, the sewer notice only applies to 20 residences.
right?
I don't know.
And will it stir more controversy, or is it just, would it be more clarity? I mean, in my mind, the first thought was clarity, but then I could see,
Well, you had one person here at that meeting, and she was an elderly gal, and she says, we're really on a budget, and we're gonna struggle with this. So I think that you might wanna put something out that says if there is a hardship,
the opportunity to
you
come.
have this opportunity to come before the council.
just like everything else.
And that would only have to be in 20 of those notices, Lynn, I think.
well, the water rate is increasing as well. Are you gonna have people on
Oh,
the same?
yeah,
Just
Okay.
get it sent to
Everybody is
everybody.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I think we need to leave that option open.
Oh,
Certainly don't cause.
okay. Is there anything else on number 8 to go over?
Do you want to talk about it all, the sanitary survey stuff?
Not a whole lot's changed from the last update, but, sure, we can go over the list again.
Are you guys all aware of that list that we got from the state? The division of drinking water that came up?
Yeah, it's a division of drinking water that came up because of the number of positive bacteria results that we've had on Storm Haven in a year. And so they did their assessment and have found a number of things that they want corrected. And so we're slowly working through that list. Some of them are easy, some of them are gonna take a while.
What are some of the ones that are gonna take a while? Examples?
New tanks,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. A well that makes enough water, a tank that stores enough.
Well, that's on Storm Haven, it's not.
Yeah, so all on Storm Haven, yeah. The municipal system is still doing fine.
Yeah, okay,
But on Storm Haven, there's a number of deficiencies, all of which we've gone over before.
okay.
has there been any more contact with them folks? No.
I extended some of the deadlines.
So,
You did? So we had a little contact.
so we cleaned up a few things, like they said we didn't have a system operator, and so we took care of that one.
Okay.
We need to go replace the screen, we can update that one. So they see that we're making headway, so I don't think we're on the top of their bad list yet. But I don't think we're on the really good list either.
Okay, all right.
Well, we are going before CDBG here shortly, so
So being on a bad list will be a good thing.
it might be a good thing. So that, take care.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure you're aware of that.
Okay. And anything else? Now we'll move on to item number 9, approval of minutes for September 11th.
I'm okay with missing it.
No, we're on 8 and, yeah, so, thank you, Lynn. Anything else on number 8?
No. Oh, you want 8? You're still going back to it, Dana? Here's your report. There's your planner report for September. We had 141.75 hours on planning hours. Blue Stake hours are 46.5. There's a lot going on. Everybody's in a hurry before it snows.
That's a pretty consistent number the last few months.
It has been.
50 hours.
For some reason, last month was really busy, so didn't play catch
Do you
up.
ever see your husband? No. I wouldn't think so.
So we still have the issue down at the bottom, if you don't have any questions on the top. We still have the questions about fences out of compliance for frontage visibility requirements.
Yep.
I think we continued that last time, but I think,
We did, and I think that we kind of wanted to spend a little time on code and see how maybe that could be worked in with some of these fences or not. I know that tonight would be another night to go over fences anyway.
okay.
Should we make it an agenda item?
However you want to handle it. I'm getting several items that are getting backed up, though, we got to address.
Would those go to planning for those kind of things, to planning that item?
No, well, we have a code in place right now. We have violations in the town.
Okay.
So I need direction on what you want me to do so
You
far.
have complaints that you have.
I have complaints. So I've been told to stand down for right now, so that's what I've been doing, but
And
I don't like leaving things undone too much to catch up.
okay, so we're going to talk about Ranch Drive, a lot being used as store landscape. That, I drove by that not too long ago, that looked like it had been cleaned up.
It cleaned up quite a bit. I think they met with the homeowner association.
Okay. Stephanie, not to interrupt, but that lot, so this is one of the things on the paper, at the end of the street. I drove by not too long ago, and it seemed like it certainly improved from where it was for the last few months.
Well, what they've done is they put all their trailers against the Forest Service, so it kind of blends in. And so no, they're still going in and out of there every day. They just put all of their equipment back on the Forest Service, so on the east fence. So it looks like, because there's a bunch of trailers on the Forest Service, that's all that they've done. I haven't been down there for about a week, but what, maybe 3 trucks and a couple trailers, or?
Yeah, 2 or 3 trucks and, 3 trailers
It stayed
maybe,
the
and
same.
a cargo.
They just moved it.
Some of their inventory's left though, hasn't it?
No.
Look like some of the rocks and dirty to add there.
They're
been
building
taken
a
off.
motorcycle track, so they put some of the dirt to use for that.
And
So they rearranged the dirt.
Awesome.
So we can only
New
go
motorsports
25
park.
Yeah, new motorsports park. It'll be special, come on over. So it does look neater,
Yeah, it does.
but the stuff's still there.
Okay.
And they're coming.
You had a conversation with them, I think.
Yeah.
And
And so if the stuff hasn't moved, and because I was under the impression he was gonna be taking inventory out of there. We didn't discuss the cars and trucks because he says he's storing them there, but if he's driving in and out every day with them, that's different.
Driving in and out every day.
So,
Taking a
but the
drop
inventory
in
was
trailer.
supposed to be gone, so at this point, I will send a letter outlining that code so that he's able to, because their next letter won't be so kind.
okay, that's the Ranch Drive letter. The fence is out of compliance on it. How do you suggest, so you've also had a complaint on that? Or just comment? Or
On the fences? Yeah, we've had a complaint.
Okay.
And really, it's a safety issue.
And it is, for sure. I mean,
is there ways to mitigate, is there a minor mitigation for the folks that this is gonna apply to that might be able to be an option or no?
The way our code reads is that they won't be able to mitigate it. It shall not, so those fences will have to come down to 3 feet in height.
Is it something we may want to look at as far as that particular, once again, it's a safety issue which trumps everything, but some of the, I don't know if we can tweak footages that might help the folks out that put those in or not, but maybe they have to tear them out.
Yeah, and I know we had mentioned that they would probably be going after the contractors to put them in, because they can't do things that are against code. But that's between the homeowner and their contractor. But as far as the town's concerned, unless you want to look at changing visibility code.
I want to get to the first code we attempted before I want to worry about that code.
So I just don't know where to go with that. So I have a complaint and nothing's happening as far as they're concerned.
Which fence?
We have three fences in the town that are out of compliance. And 2 of them are on 3000 South and the other one is on Daniel Road. So it says any side obscuring fence can't be higher than 36 inches.
Side obscuring from like the corner,
Your front.
No, frontage,
Frontage only.
front of your home?
yes.
So
in the
your
front-
fence in the front of your home can't be more than 3 feet tall?
Unless it's not side obscuring. If it's a side obscuring fence, it has to be 3 feet.
And that's everywhere.
So now the corner's a different situation. We do speak to the corner. There's a 25-foot visibility on the corner. Right. And so that also cannot be higher than.
So if I wanted to take my little white fence and put up a 6-foot tall fence, vinyl, I could do that.
You could
Don't
not,
need 3 feet tall.
For privacy, no.
but it'd be easier to fix their vinyl than what's going on. You should change that down to 3 feet. Well, there were some questions about how far into your property it had to go. Our code states the frontage. So in front of the house, your frontage can't be higher than 36.
But your side ones can be.
Should have hired the right
Your side
fencer.
ones can
Because that one could also create a real problem with traffic, you know. Your side.
I said I did.
Well, yeah, but if you're behind the front of the house,
Right.
it's not.
I see that.
So it's the frontage that quantifies where that's.
Can we, as far as weather, indicate that in the 20 inches, they can at least start understanding that it's, I bet you guys don't have any idea. Maybe they do now, that's the beginning of it.
I think at least 2 of them
Do now or did before the building?
did before. So,
We've got that complaint and it's been done properly, I think we need to send at least a letter to start the process.
okay. I'll draft something else and get it approved.
And then the demo of the building with house permit, that's still being researched and trying to find out the keys on it. Ryan, are we still chewing on well, there's 2 different issues. You got the red tag order that was blown by, and so that has nothing to do with some of the other past issues.
Yeah, so I have some research on the history of the park. I still have more sources to look into. The one source we thought we had got back to me today that they don't have much in writing. They have lots of hearsay. But I still need to go back through council minutes and planning commission minutes and see what I can find. I have looked back through the historic photographs, and the park's been around for a long time and not much has changed since.
But the county, as far as county records, as far as the stuff that you normally access for most of the things, you can't find yet.
I haven't found much of anything that would support when it was when it was permitted, other than historic photographs seem to go back to before most of the codes.
So Eric, what,
That's what we thought too when I asked how many people, how long it's been around.
and so, yeah.
Prior to 72.
But after 72, it was closed, it still could be a violation of that prior, and if they were to apply to the county, then it should be apply to the town.
I hope the ones that come, but.
Ryan, when do you think you could get the most, I mean, as far as the date, when do you feel you could get the most you could glean before you say there's, I can't find anything else? I mean, by next meeting?
Yes, so my next
Right
meeting.
now.
I literally, it may be right now.
Yeah, no, It's gonna take a little effort. By next meeting, I can certainly have an answer. I thought I could have it by tonight, but there were enough things that came up empty that I wanna look at some other places.
I'll probably, once you have your information, whatever that information may be, then we'll see what our next steps will be. But I just, once you say nothing more I can do and this is what I have, then.
There's a few more avenues I'd like to go down before I tell you that I found everything I can. It may be that I found everything there is, but I wanna look in some other holes.
Okay. I don't have any questions about anything else on your complaints?
I had Kimberly come tonight. I'll have Ryan introduce her.
Awesome.
Jim, you wanna go on up?
I had a horn, I tooted, but I don't have it.
So this is Kim, one of our staff engineers at GDA. And so Eric wanted me to introduce her because, well, basically anytime I come to these meetings and say I'll do that, that usually means she'll do it, she does it. So we're working on cutting out the middleman.
Well, I've seen your, it's nice to meet you tonight. I've seen your name on everything, but we haven't met, so I do appreciate you coming this evening. And I do know you do a lot of work.
Well, thank you.
Any questions that council might have for us? Just appreciate the introduction.
I've been working with Ryan for 4.5, almost 5 years now.
Excellent. Well, that means you probably know how to read him and he knows how to read you.
Nope.
Not yet? No problem.
They do a super job for the town, they really do.
Just briefly, what is your, what do you do, what's your experience, just background with regards to engineering, not your whole life story, I don't know.
Yeah. Primarily what I do is a lot of mapping, and I've been doing that since about 2009. I have a master's in civil engineering, and I'm from Ohio. So if you talk to me for any extended period of time, I'll probably bring it up somehow. Because what I learned in school was how to repair things and how to work on shoestring budgets, and then I come up here and people are building. So it's been a very interesting experience, just coming from an attitude of, oh no, things are falling apart, things are 50 years old, or working on sewers that are over 100 years old, and coming out here when you're like, it's old, it's 10 years old. I'm like, no, it's not. It's still in the original shape.
Well, we appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you. Happy to help.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you.
So the reason I introduced her is because now we've been working on this week. This is a carport garage. So this is the Dudley permit up in Storm Haven. So this permit comes across, and the bid for that garage, everybody see that garage? The little tin ones, they just sit on the ground?
Yeah.
The bid for that garage is $3,351. Okay? The fee for the town to put that on your property is $789. Yeah. So that looks wrong to Eric, and I'm not very good at staying quiet, so. I think that, and we went back and forth, Kimberly and me went back and forth on the code. And of course with Ryan involved with this, and there's just nothing that will allow a temporary building versus putting up a garage. So if this was indeed a carport with open sides, it would be different, but with 4 sides closed in, that falls under an accessory structure.
But it has no foundation, it has no, it's movable, it's portable.
Maybe we'll
Well, they
take
very
and
much
put a
are.
foundation on it.
True.
It's an accessory structure now, we've gone from a carport to something different.
So I tried for temporary building because it didn't have a foundation. And there's a great section of the code that allows temporary buildings. As long as you tell us how long it's gonna be there and when you're gonna move it. And the answer here is they don't intend to move it, so. It's a great effort, but that one fell short after 3 different attempts.
And as a result of that is now all of a sudden we do a review, now we need structural calcs on this thing. Because now we have to do a review on it. Well, to get the structural calcs, now we're going back to this owner and requiring an additional, I think I have that here.
That's why I didn't buy that last time.
Maybe I don't have that. It was almost $400 to get them
Over and above the
over and
700.
above the 700 to get us the structural calculations, so that we can do the permit review on an accessory structure.
Isn't this pretty unique with regards to the dollar cost ratios versus that little?
Yeah, most of the time I can see that, you know, there's a reason why. And trust me, we spend a lot of time and money on this item right here that would totally justify that $700. But basically getting up to speed on this type of a structure in our town.
So you're looking at maybe adding a fee structure line to our structure?
What's
I thought your hand was up, sorry.
No, no.
Is that what we do, is that a fee structure to obviously maybe make more sense than the higher fee, or what would be the easiest way to?
Probably the easiest thing is to make that a use. A use probably with I would ask GDA what they wanted to.
So I mean, clearly the intent of the building codes and what we passed was not to make a $1,000 building permit out of a $3,000 building. So I think one way to look at it would be, you know, buildings without foundations and review those differently. I am cautious though that there's, you know, all of a sudden we get trailers that are not on foundations and other people living in structures that are dangerous that weren't permitted.
Yeah, is the town want a lot of $3,000 garages around?
That's
I mean,
not an
clearly
engineering
they
question. So I think there are things we can do. I know, I've talked to the structural engineer on that, and there's some standards that they have without providing structural calcs that would satisfy him that the, you know, that the building is built to withstand the wind and the snow loads, which are the two big things we check for, without requiring those. But the way the code's written, I mean, we're just like other issues, we're stuck with the code and the interpretation of the code, and despite our best efforts, we interpreted it as a building. So I think there's things we could do to change the code in the future, but I don't know that that's gonna help the situation today.
Question, does that, do the manufacturer already have that information for these buildings?
They have it available for a price. So this manufactured, well, where they're buying this from is Dreams Carports. I believe it's Elephant is the manufacturer, is that correct?
So one other complicating factor is it is a standalone, but they want it closer than 20 feet to their house, which was a setback. And so they're attaching it to the house, which also helps it now classify as an addition to the house, which now might, you know, now we're adding an addition to the house and we're questioning whether or not we need structural engineering. If we're attaching something to a house, it seems like a good idea, even if it is arguably only kind of attached. Because if we argue this one doesn't need it, then you have somebody else that does a big addition and they didn't need engineering because these guys didn't.
Well, I know one that kind of was started off being one thing, kind of evolved to another thing that we kind of caught and worked with, and so it sounds like this is doing the same thing from a simple carport, now it's next to the house, now it's attached to the house, and so it's morphed into something different than what the first and original application might be, or no?
Well, yes, but I would say this one morphed differently. This one morphed because it was required. So they drew a site plan and said they wanted it 3 feet from their house. They said the code's very clear, you either need 20 feet or it needs to be attached. They didn't want 20 feet, so they opted to go attached. So it's not been where it morphed after it was built or during construction when we weren't watching. They've been upfront with what they're trying to do. I think she's trying to follow all the rules and do it right. We just have a code that doesn't fit that lot very well.
Now, in a normal situation, 10 feet would be, if you go to 80402, 10 feet is the distance it has to be. But because it's in RA5 zone, 87 comes into play, which requires it 20 feet. So it's the individual zone in this case that dictates how close or far away that can be.
So on this issue, is it just really the amount that's kind of overbearing at this point with that dollar figure?
Well, anytime I get something like this, I want to hammer that out because the next person in
Right?
will be doing it all over.
I agree.
So I can totally explain to this one, this is the code, this is what you have to do. I just think that that's really, I mean, and plus, I mean, this building is a special, like I said, it's in the environmental overlay zone, so it's right next to the creek. We've got floodplains, we have several other issues that we have to deal with. And we have a public sewer system on the property. So there's a lot of issues that we have to work through with this.
Where does that stand right now? Just application only?
It's still an application.
And maybe the application just has to be where it is. Part of it.
So besides bringing that to our attention, and I would agree that that dollar amount for the initial way that that was described is kind of outrageous for that kind of amount, but
Yeah.
I don't know if we, I can't think of a here a solution if there was one. We can always change down the road to the next guy, but I don't know, like Brian said, I don't know how we're gonna do this one.
Right.
Option would be
Well, it's-
to go the, heavier structures is to pay the settlement. So he's getting that cheaper, getting the cheaper.
It's over what it was, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all it is.
Yeah, so the only way I can see that we address this is we either change to accept these kind of things at a discounted rate, or else they'll just have to bring them up to our standard. There's no doubt in my mind that the engineering will pass. If she gets it, it will pass what our engineering specs.
I've always been, if it's in the code, either change the code or run with the code. So I get the point, we get the point, but I don't know. We changed that, this particular one, and I think it's gonna be snowball.
Okay. Well, and that's fine, we just didn't know what to do.
It is, that's another gray area, and it doesn't seem to be right.
Right, so me and DDA go back and forth with these requirements back and forth. I'm sure you got a lot of details. Okay, I just wanted you to be aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. Now you know what I know.
Well, I could pass that along to her. She was asking me earlier what the status was of her permit. And I'm like, well, we're still debating back and forth what the definition of your structure is.
Oh, yeah, you can tell her it came before the town council.
Yep. And we presented it.
So definitely want to leave it messing down there. Down on that one?
Yeah,
Okay.
done with me altogether.
Excellent, thank you.
The only thing I did want to bring to your attention though is the open house for the power, which I'm totally surprised they didn't notify the town. Since we have an agreement with them, there's an open house at the power company.
It was in the power bill today.
Oh, was that?
Well, it's also in the news, the power bill last month too.
Was it last month too?
So if anybody's interested in doing that, I know we have a franchise agreement with those folks. Kind of thought they'd be a little bit more on the ball.
I went last year, I was like, what?
That day's coming.
I was like, what of two?
Okay, that's it.
Okay, we'll go to item number 9, which will be approval of meeting minutes of September 11th, 2017. Yeah, we'll have a chance to look at that. So, Chair will take a motion to accept the minutes as written or amended.
Did you have a chance? There you are. Okay. I'll make the motion to approve when you get ready. You're the man.
Okay, go ahead.
I made the motion.
We have a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Second, any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Aye? Any opposed?
What happens when there's only 3 of us?
Minutes approved. Continued discussion on Amendment A is what we've called this year-long discussion on code, which I think that's what everybody's here for. And that'll be code 8.25, and we're calling it A. We've made it through the recap. It's gone through planning. Planning gave it to the council. The council has made some adjustments. When we're done making the adjustments, we're sending it back to planning for because we've changed the recommendation, so it's going to go back to them. I studied this more this last month than I have any other month, and really tried to feel the spirit of it as well as the wording of it. We've gone through the whole process, and we were down to items K through O. I don't know how many people have this, but we had discussed last meeting again, and we couldn't get past K, which is really tough, and so I put together what I feel, and I'd like the council to discuss it before we certainly open up to the public to make comment. And so we started at number K last time and we didn't get past it. I'll read it. I'd like to read what I think it ought to say, and or something close to it. I've been, as this has been tweaked for this last year, I think everybody's like some of it and not like some of it, or no, I don't think anyone's been happy with every word in it, but I think it's been well discussed, and it's time to get on and try to get this particular one done. I read, so if you read number K, large industrial equipment such as backhoes, track hoes, mini track hoes, skid steers, and lifts, and it was originally written as are not allowed. I looked at that and thought, well, we all have tractors or a backhoe that we use as a tractor, we might have a skid steer. My mind brought together, so as I read this, large industrial equipment such as backhoes, track hoes, mini track hoes, skid steers, and lifts that are used for commercial use are not allowed, no more than 3 pieces of equipment visual. The terminology or the words might not be there, but the essence is, and it has been since the beginning of this, is trying to accommodate some folks that have other pieces of equipment but to keep it our rural feeling. If we go back to what we've kind of approved already on this, I go back to the number 1, and this kind of, I kept going back to it on every single thought that I had. Home occupation shall not alter the residential character of the premise, disturb the current level of peace and quiet of the neighborhood, nor detract from the residential character of the neighborhood. This includes radio and television receptions of the neighboring properties, vehicles left running or coming and going during the off hours or application. Could be an example of disturbing the peace and quiet. And there's plenty in here that leaves either complaints or when people are getting their business license renewed, or when new licenses are coming in, that the planning department has in this particular document all the tools I think it needs to make a good decision on each individual home business. I think that's been discussed as well. I'm going to go through these 5, and then, like I say, we'll leave it up to us, and we'll open up for
Mayor Turner, I'm sorry, I was writing that and I missed the last part.
Okay,
Can you read that one more time?
Yep, I'll read it from the very beginning. Okay, large industrial equipment such as backhoes, track hoes, mini track hoes, skid steers, and lifts that are used for commercial use are not allowed. No more than 3 pieces of equipment, meaning there could be somebody that wanted to collect old equipment. They might take that past 3. It's not being used for commercial, but maybe they like to collect 50 of them. I don't know that a neighbor would want to see all those in there. So in my mind, that's why I'm trying to cut that out and say, you know, if they had more than 3, maybe they're hid, maybe they're in their garage, maybe there's something. But what I'm trying to focus on is residential use, and we all have equipment that we use residentially, and a lot of this equipment that in the beginning said it was not allowed. I think some of those things are certainly appropriate, just not for commercial use, taken in and out of your property every day. So that would be that line for me. I like the next line, businesses requiring large facilities for warehousing and wholesale distribution are not allowed. I would like to keep that the same. M, medical, dental, and insurance businesses are not allowed. Number N, and I have changed this a little bit. Shipping, transport, and trucking businesses are not allowed for more than self-operators. So we have, I see people have trucks, so totally appropriate in my mind to be able to, it's on its property to be able to pull a truck in there. Do I feel that someone should have 5 trucks and 5 employees coming in and taking the trucks out? No, I don't. I think we've had lots of round-and-round discussions about it, and that's why I've taken a year for it. At this point, this is still only my thoughts, but I just want to kind of get directed and get these last 4 out of the way and then send it back to planning. So, once again, transporting business, if you're an owner-operator, that would be acceptable. If not, it wouldn't be. O, short-term rentals, motels, bed and breakfast, and reception centers are not allowed. I would keep that the same as well. Any discussion from council on that first?
Could you read the last sentence?
The last one, on O,
Okay,
okay.
no more than 3 pieces of equipment.
Of these equipment that's mentioned here, the large equipment, no more than 3 being used. So there could be 3 of those pieces of equipment that they're not using commercial that could certainly be on their ground. But if they had 4 or 5 or 6, they would need to be, you know, either out of sight or in a building or
So
something
you
like
said
that.
visible, no more than 3 pieces of equipment visible?
Yes, I said visual,
Okay.
but visible would be a better word.
Okay.
So no more than 3 visible allowed
That's what I put.
to be used commercially?
Not to be used commercially. So if someone had a skid steer and they're using their house for their, hauling their hay grain, if someone has a mini track so and they're doing their, whatever they do.
What if you're doing both?
If you're doing both, you know, once again, it's personal. So we're trying to separate, and here's where it's
I
gonna go.
understand, yeah, but like I do use mine for.
I'm sure. and-
I move ton bales, but it does go on jobs.
Well, a backhoe and a tractor, 2 different but same thing. Someone might have the hoe for doing manure and have a, you know.
Now, I have a mini hole, I dig up my sprinkler lines. But I also do commercial.
So, and.
So you're allowed 3 of them?
So,
Yeah.
what we also have to look back on it from the beginning and from the last meeting, is complaint driven, it's nuisance driven. We're trying to get some parameters, and a lot of these guys, you know, you haven't had complaints forever. I don't see complaints coming down the road because not a whole lot's changed over the last 30
But
years.
certainly that's written in there. If somebody says, hey, you're using that for commercial use, I can see the complaint coming because it's written.
Yeah.
And that is the point. If it is being used for commercial use, then someone would have to say that would change the character of the home, blah, blah, blah. So having equipment is not necessarily going to change it unless it's leaving every day to go out to a commercial
So
job
what
site.
happens to those guys that you've already given business licenses to, knowing that was the use, and then suddenly this is in here? Does that negate their business license?
I think that comment could be made for every single business almost, and I'm not saying, well, we can find something wrong with too many cars for whatever kind of business it even is appropriate. When I went back over and over, it kept coming back to complaints, oversight for new applications, oversight for reapplications to work some of these things out. So when it goes to planning for a reapplication, this business has been doing this and this, no complaints, I don't see a problem that it's not gonna move through. As Eric brought up many times, probably every home would have something out of compliance. We don't wanna go there, and we're not looking to go to those kind of things. We're trying to bring some normalcy to a residential area, and that's what I felt would kind of split it to whether, you know, we can have that heavy, bigger equipment on our ground, but it's for our personal use and for our residential use in our farms, not for commercial use and everything else. Yeah.
It kind of confuses me in that you're addressing non-commercial use on equipment in a part of the code that's just for a commercial, not really commercial, but for a business owner. Like this part of the code doesn't really apply to somebody that's not a home occupation business.
This is for business.
Yeah.
So I didn't quite get your
So you're relying on no more than 3 for somebody who's not using them
visual.
commercial.
No, not the commercial, they're residential.
Yeah, but they're using them,
No, they're not using them.
yeah, that they're not going to use them for commercial use.
Correct.
But it's a part of the code that only applies to
It's
a
home
home
occupation and
occupation
business.
business.
Right.
So somebody that doesn't have a home occupation
You
business,
can have
they
5
have
tractors.
however many they want. Because this code doesn't apply to them.
I see your point, loud and clear. No
So
doubt.
it confuses me.
And it would be confusing, I mean, I don't know if there's an easy answer for this. I just know that it can't be left wide open, and I feel it should have some room.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't
It's not
liked
given
every,
any room.
what's that?
It's not.
It's not given any room to anything commercial.
I think you take out that are used for commercial use. It's just you have that stuff with no more than 3 pieces of equipment. I mean, commercial, not, I mean, it's obviously
Either
commercial
is.
because it's in your commercial, well, your.
Well, it's not a
business
commercial
code.
code, this is making, it once again, a second amendment
Yeah,
to
what's your
make,
business
helping
code?
out a home business that is not commercial. We're not trying to make a home commercial business. We're trying to help people out that have commercial businesses, but we're not trying to take our residential zones and
But
force
as soon as
commercial.
you say you can't use it for commercial use, you're not helping out the person who has the business.
Yeah.
You're shutting them down. I just think if you took out that are used for commercial use, that makes sense. You can have track 3 that are visible.
And we're here to discuss it and get it done,
That can go either way, commercial or residential.
Yeah, no more than 3, period. I just don't know why that are used for commercial use. Because obviously this is for business, so the people having this are a business.
and last time we talked about 4 or 5, 1 per acre, not 1 per acre.
Yeah,
I threw-
and I'm great with that whole statement, I just don't like that are used for commercial use.
Okay,
I think that's a great statement.
okay, how does the council feel, and is that, would you want to strike that? I have no problem, that's just what I came up with.
So,
So
My
Jamie,
neighbor has
Jamie,
three pieces of equipment visible, but he's not a business and he's great. I have 3 pieces of equipment visible and they belong to my business. Now I'm suddenly,
They're targeted.
I'm not conforming because I might use it commercially, like Mr. Wall said. He can use both, but he does use it commercial. And so I think that when you put that are used for commercial use,
Yeah.
you're shutting him down from having what his neighbor can have.
well, and I agree with what you're saying, and as we spoke earlier, we're trying to make that,
It's just that gray area.
I think maybe you take out the commercial and then complaint driven. And when that person complains, that's when they need to be explained to.
okay, so we
That's
both have
skid
that,
steer loads,
the uses for commercial vehicles.
1,000-pound bales.
So what you'd like to, is to strike, that are used for
commercial use.
commercial use.
So large industrial equipment such as backhoes, track hoes, mini track hoes, skid steers, tractor trailers, and lifts are allowed with no more than 3 pieces of equipment visible.
Okay, so I just struck out the first line that's gonna cause issues, that are used for commercial use are not allowed. So then it would read, large industrial equipment such as backhoes, track hoes, mini track hoes, skid steers, and this,
Are allowed with no more,
allowed no more than 3 pieces of equipment visual.
yeah.
Okay, so we have agreement there. All right, that-
Or you can even have the skid steers and the lifts may be used for your small business, but no more than 3 pieces visible.
well, that's kind of what we're saying, yeah.
Yep,
Folks,
because I agree with that, it's kind of confusing when we say, because we're making this for small business people that might have some big equipment, but we've decided we don't want 20 big equipments, we're trying to pick a number. So 3 seems as good as anything else. I had 2 written on mine, but I'm okay with 3.
Not to go over.
Huh?
In 5
Not
years,
to
we can't
exceed 3
take that up to 20. It's gotta stay at 3, no more than 3.
or a loaf and shit that can be put, tucked away or a barn, or not
Right.
barn, but a
Park-
garage.
And the barn is my barn.
You're just classifying it as the forklifts, the backhoes, and skid steer, not our vehicle or
No.
our trailer.
We're talking big,
Correct.
big industrial equipment. or
Industrial
commercial
equipment.
That's what we're trying
Where do
to.
we define what's big?
Oh, we tried
Well,
that.
this is,
Well, it
Big
lists
to some
what
people
they're
isn't big
talking
to
about.
I know Kubota's making pretty small backhoes and pretty small little,
Yeah, I'm just saying, I mean, you're gonna make a point somewhere, what's big, what's
He
little.
listed a lot of skid steers.
Probably not a 400 class.
backhoes,
Right,
track
but
hoes.
maybe a 160, maybe
Well,
130,
and
maybe
this-
120.
I would say up to a 200 class.
200 too big?
No,
What's a tow,
you can have a 200.
That's what I'm saying.
What's a 200-ton?
and so you're trying, you want to define large.
Yeah, somewhere we gotta decide that, okay, that's too big, that's too big.
Fair enough.
Or little enough.
Two-
Or something, I mean, you gotta have some guidance.
Council, let me help on those words. We've got down to, we scratched the commercial use off of that, but no more than 3, so we're kind of down to 3 pieces here. Anything else would be,
Motor drill.
Yeah, unless it's hidden.
But is it
behind
big,
an
is it
open
little?
shed.
Yeah, there's a lot.
3 pieces still limit the
there
size
is,
to
and
most
and once
people.
again, like, after I read it so many
Yeah.
times, I want to go back to complaint. I mean, is it a Kennecott dump?
Yeah, I
dumper?
mean,
Maybe the guy bought
that's
it
all I
because
was
he got a
saying
good
is.
deal on it.
Yeah, so some
Yeah,
people,
if you look around the valley, 3 pieces of equipment is pretty conducive with what personal people might have around here. So 3 pieces of equipment for whatever you use it for is not really gonna stand out, hey, screaming, this
No, it
is
isn't.
not.
and some people might have 3 horse trailers, 2 snowmobile trailers. They might have more stuff than what.
But that's not a business.
I'm just saying, that may look more commercial than a commercial guy.
And that's for sure.
Well, it would stand out just as much.
For sure, I mean, I don't know if we're gonna,
There's no motors on the trailer.
so I can park all the trailers I want on my place. I got some pretty big trailers.
You know, and so that's the whole kind of, so we know,
Park in the backyard.
I'm good with it if you let me.
so on number K,
When your neighbors start to complain about what you're doing,
Right.
that's when you come to light. We've got a couple of people in town
Right.
that were storing trailers and boats and this, and they just kept going and
Oh, I
going and
understand.
going
No, I
and going.
understand.
And it's not until the neighbors say, wait just a minute. You know, we got people driving in and out of here every day.
So are we saying we can do it until we get complained on?
Pretty much.
Good enough.
well, what we are saying is
And then
that,
we gotta have a rule book that we can come back and say,
But I think you kind of look at this and try to be respectful of your neighbors, and
Abs-
that's what we're trying to come up with. What's respectful?
absolutely, absolutely. We're trying to get, I mean, I can just picture a town with Joe Witt and, let's just say you guys. Let's take it, and make it wide. This whole town is nothing but you guys. And what we have when you get up and you Google it, we've got a great big industrial commercial place with houses. Now, is that what Daniel wants?
Kind of always has been.
Yeah,
Yep.
it has
Sounds
been,
great.
from the beginning.
But is that what
But
we
let me
want?
tell you my story, because Blotter couldn't wait to tell his story about what happened to him as people moved in. We moved in there, we were probably the first business that just moved in after, for him. We moved into a house that was very nice looking, and I like to think we've kept it just as nice, just that we didn't
You have.
bring it down at all. I was worried about the house across the street. It was empty, it was vacant, and I knew that could be a disaster, and I knew it had water damage. It had weeds growing up, nobody was taking care of it, and that was my biggest concern. Crap, what's gonna happen with this house across the street? Then Adam moves in. Have you looked at his house? We have seen a transformation. I mean, he makes me want to work harder on my yard. It is beautiful. Everything he's done, everything he does improves the value of our neighborhood. It looks good. And I'm not trying to embarrass him, but it does. And he's a hard worker and it looks great. Then we have neighbors move to the east of us. And I see this house that, I mean, they were great neighbors, awesome, but it needed help, that house. Have you watched what they've been doing to their house? Have you looked at Joe Witt's house?
What's happened all around it. It's not even
Beautiful
on his
places.
property.
These are people you want in your community, fixing houses up, making our place look better. It looks tons better since these guys moved in, since we moved in.
Well, there's the heart of the argument right there.
And
Everybody
we
in
want to
this-
keep it in control.
Everybody in this room that's here tonight is saying, we don't have a problem if you Google the town of Daniel and you've got tractors and trailers and businesses.
That's what Daniel's looked like since it
And
opened.
there is some nice houses in between all of it. The general plan in the town of Daniel says, we're basically here for agriculture, help me out somebody, because I can't do it.
Rural atmosphere,
Rural atmosphere.
whatever that is.
So that's what we have. We have a bunch of enterprising individuals that see a town differently than what some other folks that vision 5-acre properties with a horse and a cow and a backhoe and you know, the kind of stuff you need to do fencing and what have you. There it is. There's that separation right there. That's what you're trying to balance.
But what she's saying is where maybe you can't get the places cleaned up or landscaped or fences put up unless you have people who are willing to go out and have their own business to earn money. I mean, I don't know, would you trade the people sitting in this room in the town of Daniel for,
Got more trailer park?
well, no, I don't want to say something because it could be disparaging, but it's like, okay, well, if it were just school teachers, you know, because everybody, I see that in the news of where, you know, school districts are stealing all the teachers from each other to try to give them the base pay of $35,000 or whatever. It's like, well, I don't know how many people can take flooded out houses or old shitty houses or whatever you wanna say and clean them up if they don't have the means to do it. And the means to do it comes from their ability to work, and their ability to work is from their business, so it's kind of a tough one that obviously you've been spending a year on, but I had a question of coming back to where there was one talk about a year ago of saying that there needed to show some legal path of ownership